From dating to relationships, from sex to love, from Christianity to politics, from darkness to light, you have now entered into the real zone. Welcome to Conversations with Trent, where no topic of conversation is safe from discussion. Now, here he is, Mr. Epic himself, Trent Williams.
Good morning from the States. Good afternoon to France. We got a good one today with the lovely nutritious coach, Catherine Githu. We'll be talking about manifesting, my apologies. Emotional pain manifests as physical illness. We'll be talking about that here this morning. It's very early. We doing an extra hour earlier. We're doing an hour earlier. I had to get over to the gym with my trainer, so we got to get this going. Really got to get this going. So good stuff. Good morning from the States. Good afternoon to France. Let's bring Catherine in and let's get this thing going. One sec.
Hello. Good morning.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing good. What about you?
I'm doing better now since I see your face.
Cool. Good. I have good news for you.
Good stuff.
We are talking about ACEs, not manifestation.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. You okay? Cool. So welcome everyone. This is Catherine from France, and from wherever you're tuning from, welcome. And in today's episode, we are going to look at ACEs and how they affect our lives. So you're going to learn what ACEs are, who is concerned, why and how they affect our life, and what you can do to move forward. So what are ACEs? ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. Have you ever heard of that, Trent?
Actually, no, I haven't.
Okay.
But I'm sure you'll detail every single piece of this episode.
Well, I'm not an expert in it, so I'll do my best about it. So these are the experiences, childhood experiences that happen to us, or they're happening to people before the age of 18. And this includes trauma, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. Neglect could be physical or emotional. It could be household dysfunction. If you were brought up in a house where people are always fighting, shouting, if your parents went through divorce when you were young. Mm-hmm. So domestic violence, bullying, racism, community violence, living in foster care, poverty, or house instability. Can put like anything that really traumatized you when you were a childhood. And trauma is any emotions that really overwhelmed your body that it couldn't cope normally. Okay. So who is concerned?
Yeah, we're always talking about trauma on the Conversation with Trent Friends podcast. Coach D is actually she's the resident coach over there, and she's actually trauma certified. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So every child or adult who went through in a particular time they went through trauma. Mm-hmm. There's the people who are going to have we are concerned with ACEs. These traumatic events shaped our nervous system, hormones, and even immunity without us knowing, and they can also affect the DNA. Mm. The study that was done on ACEs goes back in 1990s, and it's shown that someone can have different experiences, and the more experiences, negative experiences, the more ACEs the person had, the more disease or life challenging effects, the events that are going to happen to their life. So like they give numbers, but I don't like going into the numbers, because when I heard about the numbers, I was like, you start counting how many events you went through, and you start rating yourself with those numbers. And I felt somehow overwhelmed. Like, are these things really going to happen to me? So I don't really want to give the numbers here. But people who have gone through the ACEs, these trauma events, in most cases they have heart disease, stroke, diabetes, depression, substance abuse, sexual abuse as well, and cancer. And in the recent studies, the research has shown that there is increase of autoimmune diseases, neurodegenerative conditions, and even problems with reproduction health, like short or less amount of sperm count in men.
Wow.
Yeah, so dramatic. The problematic is, like, we live our lives without knowing how the trauma is affecting us. And especially if you're an adult today and you keep on bringing the past, you don't go back to the past, you always bring the past into the today, and you live those events as if they're happening today. The problematic is the brain doesn't know what you're really living now, like you and I, we are talking, or if I am imagining that you and I, we are talking, the brain doesn't make that difference. So if you lived a traumatic event in your past, and now you're 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and you still bring those events into your life every day, your brain lives as if those events are happening now. Right. So the stress you lived then, you're still living it today. So we're going to start with how ACEs, how this trauma affects our brain. So chronic stress increases cortisol. Cortisol is not a bad thing, but when it's produced in a high amount or for a long time, it can bring negative effects, and actually it can shrink the hippocampus, where we have memory and mood, that is in our brain. It can overactivate the amygdala, where we have the fear center. It also weaken the prefrontal cortex, where we have emotional regulation, memory, attention, and even learning. So we have found that kids who have gone through ACEs, a lot of ACEs, depending with the dose of how each person is perceiving, each child is perceiving that, they have learning difficulties. They also become sometimes aggressive, or they withdraw, because the emotions are so much that we can't handle the situations, and now the brain is being affected on how it's handling the emotions. Okay. ACEs also affects DNA expression. Trauma changes genes expression through methylation. That's what we are calling today epigenetics. Genes on their own, they don't do much. Genes are just like a piano. They are the notes. And without anyone playing that piano, the piano will stay there forever. No one will ever hear the music. However, epigenetics is what now we call the environmental factors that are going to come and play the piano. And so, according to your environment, what is happening outside you will affect how your genes are going to be read. Okay, so epigenetic is like it's reading the genes. And so The trauma can affect now the genes that are concerned about immunofunction, emotional regulations, and even what I say, the brain development. And the problem here also, or the concern comes in, like, I don't know whether you have had this, where people, they have tendencies of being, for example, having depression or something like that, or having brain diseases that they don't understand where they come from. And this could be a trauma that was passed through generations. We talk about people who have gone through, for example, the slaves, our forefathers. We can have that that trauma coming forward to the kids who are born from people who are slaves, or those who went through Holocaust. I mean, any generation that went through big trauma as a population or community, they can bring forward those trauma to the generations that are forward. You have an idea of that?
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I've read about that. We've talked about that on like I said, on the conversation and Trent with friends with Coach D. She's
Okay.
she's a trauma coach. So yeah, we've spoken on this several times as far as generational trauma. Actually, that's a generational trauma podcast, the #1 podcast on Apple in that category. So yeah,
Well,
it's been that way for years.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way to make people release the trauma, especially when it comes to generational trauma, which has affected, a community. Imagine, like, especially the Black Americans or the African Americans who have that common trauma in them. Trauma also, I mean, we're looking at a section where how does trauma cause inflammation? So when we are constantly a child or an adult, but an adult is bringing trauma into the adult life. So the trauma actually happened into the childhood. And when we live constantly in fear, the stress response is never shut down. So we are always into the fight or flight mode. Over time, the cortisol becomes chaotic and starts damaging the gut lining. That's when it causes the leaky gut. And the leaky gut will overreact the immune system, because the immune system is supposed to protect you from what is coming from outside. So if you have a leaky gut, now the immune system becomes overwhelmed. And that stress also affects the gut microbiome, promoting the unhealthy microbiome. So the trauma, it's not just in the brain where, I myself, I went through a heck of it, and I had people telling me, you just need to get over it.
Right.
And it's not just, now I wish people, and I hope with this podcast, people will understand that we need to get over it. It's not just for the brain, like you need to have good relationship with you. It's because there is more damage that is happening. And so this inflammation is what is causing a lot of diseases that people have today without them knowing. And actually, in my food health protocol, this is something that I really work with women. Like, tell me about your story. Because most people don't relate. You might say, I started having pain and this happened. I always start, tell me what happened to you when you were a little kid. And most people might not relate to that. Like, I have a woman I'm working with, and she has been in depression for a long time. And when we started really opening the woods, she understood where her trauma came from and where how it is causing her depression today.
Right. But when you just said, well, some people say you need to just get over it,
Yeah,
that's insensitive. And most people don't realize that it's a process, man, when you're
yeah,
trying to walk away from trauma and
hmm
what have you. So
yeah.
that's folks, you find a person who's dealing with certain things. It's a process to get to the next phase in life,
Oh, yeah,
on to happiness within yourself.
yeah.
It's a process.
I remember once talking to a family member, and he told me, "Oh, you're still there. You just need to go to the church and get prayed for." It's like,
Yeah,
man,
yeah. That's
it's
insensitive.
lack of understanding of how
Exactly.
someone is really suffering inside. And I think, quote unquote, people who are healthy can even to a certain point think that we are just faking it, like we are exaggerating it.
Exactly.
And especially
Give,
when you come from the same family and maybe you are the only one who is living that.
right.
Like it was my case.
Like give an example, right? And
Yeah.
this is why I tell people all the time, like people who lose loved ones and whatnot, and they pass on.
Yeah.
And I tell them all the time, I said, I'm not going to tell you I know how you feel.
Yeah.
Everyone has different feelings when we're talking about a loved
Someone
one
who's gone.
passing on.
Yeah.
But for me, I can share my experience with you with that. And it's a process. But my stress levels were so high when my mother and my brother passed, it caused me a bleed on the brain.
I totally agree. I totally
Yeah.
agree. One thing.
So it's a process. And he said, well, it's going to get better over time. You
Yeah.
can't say that for me because everyone is different. We're all
Everyone is
different. We're
different.
all so different, all the way down to the follicles of hair on our head.
Yeah. How
Exactly.
our brains handle the stuff is
Exactly.
quite different. It's really quite different. I also got a call from a man who wanted me to help him. And when we talked, and he went layers and layers, and he had lost his mother and father and a brother. So he is alone.
Right.
And he told me, I'm so happy that I talked to you because I feel that you hear me, because every time I try to talk to people, they tell me, you just have to get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you, man, I got to be honest with you. When that happened, when that happened, it happened so sudden and so close together.
Mm,
I'm talking about a matter of a couple of months. When I tell you the entire world felt like it depopulated within 2 months. That's how alone I felt. So that's no get over it type thing.
yeah,
That's a process, and you have to have the right people around you to get you over the hump.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
And it can feel lonely sometimes.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So here are some few diseases that are connected to ACs, that is the trauma, cancer, especially cervical, breast, and colon cancer, autoimmune diseases, heart disease and stroke, chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, kidney diseases, PCOS and endometriosis, depression and anxiety, Alzheimer's disease, type 2 diabetes, constipation, IBS or gut issues, and anything to do with reproduction. So declining of sperm count, and also having infertility in women when they can't bear a child.
Right,
In children, the behaviors will be aggression, withdrawal, or hyperactivity, learning difficulties, sleeping issues, or bedwetting, or stomachache sometimes, poor attachment or self-esteem, and but that can also go to adults where we have very low esteem, or we don't have any self-confidence, self-love, and all that.
hmm
Trauma dramatically, which is weird also, it can cause premature aging. That was really hard for me because we are running around with these baggages in our head, and it's not just on our head, it's in our bodies, but we are also accelerating the aging if someone doesn't come close to illness. If you don't really get to change, and you know you catch yourself at that time and you start the healing journey. I don't know how we can say it's too late, because if you are in that trauma journey and you are 70 years, can we say we can say that premature aging has already happened. But when you're still in your early 30s and 40s, I think you can do something when it comes to healing, finding how you can heal so that you can't redo the aging, but you can at least slow it, if I can say that.
Right.
So how this happens is the trauma leads to accumulation of oxidative stress and also anxiety. And anxiety is known to shorten the telomeres. Telomeres, not telomeres, it's telomeres. Telomeres, we have the chromosomes, and at the end of the chromosome, the shoelaces, they have a cap so that the lace doesn't go away, doesn't spoil. So we have that cap, the plastic cap that holds the shoelace. And the telomere or telomeres, they are those caps. So they protect the cells to over-divide. And when we are in full of stress and anxiety, these caps, they are affected. So they become short. And when they become short, that is aging. It increases the aging.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It was so like, man, that is really weird, because, it's just like how your emotional can affect even how you're going to live your future life. So why are women more affected by ACEs or trauma or an inflammation in this case? This is mostly because of cultural internalization and shame, because most women, whatever happened to them, especially in case of sexual abuse, we feel we detach ourselves with our bodies. And also the society where if the sexual abuse happened into the family, there is more like quieting, like you don't tell.
Right.
And so you have to live with that. And that becomes more dramatic because the woman is now left to themselves. And actually, I also found through this research that there are a lot of women who don't even want to go for medical checkups when, like, the cervical cancer, it's prevalent in the women who have gone sexual abuse because they don't like the screening. So that's why one of the reasons why women can have that. And because also women, we have hormones that are so much sensitive to the exterior world. So they're going to increase more of like fibroids, endometriosis, and the breast and cervical cancer as well. What else is also, that thing the women are supposed to suppress, or how they feel, that the society, how we are kind of formatted.
Yeah.
So the women feels more that. And also, like, I don't know for now, but we know, I was reading a paper, like, it's dramatic. I think it's 7 girls out of 10 in America, they have sexual abuse.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And that's America. It's where we have studies. I can imagine in places like in Africa, we don't have studies like this. We don't have people watching you. We don't have people denouncing that.
Right.
It's even dramatic.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
Believe that. The most important thing for folks, man, we're going we've gone through traumatic experiences and, dealing with trauma and whatnot. The best thing to do is release. Holding it in is not, it's very detrimental to your health,
Yeah,
literally.
literally. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For me, what happened to me is I grew up being in fear constantly. Like this parent of the person who was taking care of me, I knew the person didn't like me, didn't love me. So, and there was constantly mistreatment. So I was constantly in fear. And I came to understand early when I was in school that I had problem in capturing what was being taught in school. Like I really had hard time in
Mhm.
understanding things in school because I was constantly trying to cope. Like being at home was the worst place to be for me. So I was happy being in school, but when I was in school, I was also thinking when I'm going back to the house.
Right.
And so I was also I understood I was very angry. I had a lot of anger and very withdrawal because I could hardly talk to people. And sometimes I could be walking this way and I see someone coming and I would just try the best I could not to face that person, not to meet with that person. And for me, when I first started talking, and that's not a long time ago, it's about 15 years ago, it's when I started talking about it.
Hmm.
That's when things really went down. Like,
Exactly. So
it's
you're
really
actually you're
important.
actually releasing.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, now knowing that it's not even that knowing that someone else know, it's just that relief. Like
you're letting
you're
it
you're
go.
bringing the weight out of you. It
Yeah.
was so
Talking
good.
about it releases it and let it go. Yeah.
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah. So yeah, to say that for anyone who is going through trauma, who has gone through the ACEs, your body is not broken. You're
Right.
not broken. It's not your fault. And the best you can do, as we are saying here, is try to find people or someone where you can get to talk. I think, like you have a podcast where people can come and talk about their trauma.
Hmm.
So it could be very helpful if someone can find people or someone who, a therapist, for example, who can help just share it out, just talk. Someone who can just sit down and listen to you. That's one of the best things that can happen to start healing.
Absolutely.
What else? What else? Do you have any questions so far?
No questions, just personal experiences. Give you guys an example of how trauma could be trapped. You could be trapped in trauma for years and decades on top of decades, right?
Yeah.
My trauma started when I was 4 years old and
Oh,
didn't even know. Went through life, going about life and doing well in life and what have you. But I didn't release that trauma until I wrote the Four Horsemen book. In the middle of writing that book, it's a memoir of me and my brothers, my brothers and I. And it's called The Four Horsemen. And as I'm writing this book, writing, I started to cry. And I'm talking about pouring tears, sobbing. I'm talking about sobbing, right? At the time when I was doing this, I didn't realize that as I'm writing this, I'm releasing everything that has taken place in my life since I was 4. And after that cry, I completed that book and went on to speak all over the country, abroad, and whatnot, all that good stuff. And it's been good ever since. not even
Mhm.
knowing that my writings was
Mhm.
releasing me from that pain.
It is important for today people can journal that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it can be really a way of releasing. I also tried to, and I read your book, by the way. I
Oh,
remember when
did
we
you?
first in the yeah. I read, yeah,
Oh, thank you.
very very moving, very disturbing as well. Because I mean, when we are victims, you always put you put yourself in the victim, the person, the victim part.
Thank you. That makes me feel good.
Yeah, and
Good stuff.
yeah, I remember also trying to write and it's really good to just really feel that you're releasing those things, those emotions.
Mhm.
And what I would like to say here is, we are almost concluding this. It's don't feel guilty of what happened to you, because
Right,
you could have protected yourself otherwise.
right,
So it's not your fault what happened to you. And in some trauma, there is always that you need, like if you go to the religious way, they'll tell you you have to forgive. I
mhm,
don't say you have to forgive the person who did whatever did to you, who happened to you, but you forgive yourself as a soul, because you bought whatever was said or was done to you.
right,
You can, you can say it's your fault, or you start feeling like you're not loved, or so you're not lovable. That was my case. I knew that I wasn't loved by people who brought me into this world. And so I grew up no thinking that I was not lovable to anyone. And so even when I'm in the relationship with people and things happen, I would, like, my brain will just switch on. Like, it's obvious
hmm,
you're unlovable. You create
exactly,
that mechanism where the brain is just trying to protect you, but not in the positive way, not in the way that you're supposed to heal.
exactly.
So try the best you can, whatever you're going through. Forgive yourself. It's not going to happen in just a minute. You need to go that journey. It's a transformational journey where you go deep healing, and that's when we talk about the shadow work, doing your shadow work,
Hmm, hmm,
going down deep and trying to see what you can revive the things that happen. But there's no need of you going there, but more is trying to find out how you can, elevate yourself and heal, stand for yourself, create space for you, and be more loving and tender to yourself,
hmm.
because no one else can.
Let's for a moment, let's hover around what you just said about the brain helping you, but the brain thinks that it's helping you as far as when
Yeah,
it have you to block things out.
because it's for survival. You're supposed to
Exactly, for
survive.
survival.
Yeah,
That's how the brain works.
yeah.
But you got to be mindful, man, when you're going through a traumatic experience, and it doesn't always have to be physical experiences.
Of course, it's
Mental,
not physical, it's mental.
exactly, it's mental.
Just a second. For me, I was beaten, thoroughly beaten. But I don't remember the beatings. I remember the psychological, the
Wait, so
emotional.
you were physically abused?
Yeah. I don't think that the physical beating really affected me, because there was a time I got to detach myself. Like, the suffering was too much.
Right,
Suicidal thoughts are there, running away from the house. I did it.
right, right.
So I really detached myself, but I suffered so much emotional, and especially also the words that are being said repeatedly.
Right.
And obviously they're not words that are really helping you. They are things that are really making you feel so small.
Exactly. And as I was saying, so that's not a, some in some cases, some people think that, oh, I'm blocking this out. Nah, that's your brain going into survival mode, right?
Hmm, yeah.
But you got to be careful with that because if you're blocking it out, you're really stopping progress. When you think about this, right?
Blocking, yeah, exactly. And blocking will be the worst thing to do, because as we have seen, it's not just the brain that is affected. And every emotion you feel, you have chemicals that are released by the brain and the cells, and that's
Exactly.
why they affect the other parts of the body. So don't block it. Don't
Exactly.
try to be strong, like I can handle this. No.
It's for me, right? It's for me. I blocked that trauma. My trauma wasn't like abuse or anything like that. It was
Yeah.
just things that I experienced, things that I saw,
Yeah.
and what have you and whatnot. And you know, I dealt with it totally different in a totally different way. Blocked it out for all those years, and I did not release that until I became an adult, a grown man writing books.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself writing on personal experiences. But I became a writer at a very young age, very young age. I started journaling when I was like maybe 7 or 8.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was always writing my
Journaling
thoughts
about
down.
yourself.
I was writing about my mother, my father,
Okay.
and our experience. I mean, we had a great
Okay.
life. We had a wonderful life until my father made some bad decisions. So, I would journal about that type of stuff and whatnot. And as, I got older, those journals turned into books.
Wow.
Not even realizing that all that time that I was writing my life story from the age of 7.
Amazing.
Yeah. But I did not know that you read the Four Horsemen book. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I read it. I read it.
I feel so
Uh,
special all the way in France. The Four Horsemen book was being read.
yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. I I don't have much to say after that. I think I also got emotional somehow. So
Yeah, we got kind of deep this morning here in the
yeah.
States and in the afternoon over in France.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate that, man. Actually, I was talking about you on the podcast Sunday, man. I was telling Coach D and Shannon how you always come into the nutrition edition over here very well prepared, very well prepared. You're doing
Thank
a
you.
great job to say that this is your first endeavor with podcast, man. Very impressed with your work.
Thank you. Thank you. But to conclude, I'll say beyond speaking, because one, you release, there is also other therapies that someone can go through, and nutrition is one, but you need also to have people who can help you. There is breath work. Have you ever heard of breath work?
I'm
Breathing,
sorry. Can you repeat
breathing,
that?
breathing,
Yeah, I do it every
breathing.
morning. Getting ready to do it
Yeah,
at the gym in a minute.
it helps you, you calm your nervous system. Meditation, yoga, for people who, sometimes when I used to hear meditation and yoga, I used to say, why do I have to do other medicine that belong to other people?
Right.
And I always used to ask myself, what did Africans do or did before because for Africans they're going to prayers, but prayers is more religious.
Right.
So dancing, dancing, just letting your body, free yourself. It's something that you can do. And yeah, finding purpose in your life as well, bringing yourself close to your creator, because you
Right.
feel more anchored into this life.
Right. And
Have
so,
knowing that life has a meaning, and also it's hard to say sometimes, to say that what you went through is supposed to prepare you for something. Maybe we don't know what that is, but every
right.
suffering is a preparation. It's a lesson to something and a preparation to something. So whatever you went through, try to find out, what was it life trying to tell you? What was it teaching you?
From my personal experience with this bleed, I'll have to tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than centering yourself. Once
Mhm.
you center yourself,
Yeah.
and that brain lines up with every limb, every nervous system, every crook and cranny of your body, you will find out exactly what's your purpose on this rock we call Earth. Centering yourself and taking it in and releasing it
Yeah.
is a phenomenal feeling, man. Phenomenal feeling. I never thought that I'd be able to get out of that wheelchair so effortlessly and so graciously. And the only way I was able to do that was by centering myself and connecting my brain back to everything that was broken.
Yeah. And some people will say, how do I do that? And it's a process.
It's a
It's a
process,
work.
definitely a
It's a work
process.
that you need to do. So finding that space where you become
Right,
your own supporter. You let yourself be accountable to yourself. I'll say so.
exactly.
Be
I got some
accountable.
great news to report to you before I get out of here, Catherine.
Yeah. Yeah.
A few weeks ago, you
Yeah.
encouraged me.
Yeah.
You knew I was doing the cold dip, and
Yeah.
you asked me a question. He was like, "Are you going all the way up to your neck?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh no, oh no." So he was like, "Try it,
Yeah.
try it." So ladies and gentlemen, I was going up to the waist, and first I was sitting down in the cold dip and got all the way up to the chest, the bottom of my chest, top of my stomach. But Catherine encouraged me to go deeper. I had anxiety after she told me that. I was afraid. I'll be honest with you, I was afraid to do that, thinking that something was gonna go wrong and I'll get
Yeah.
another bleed. And she was like, "Nah, just give it a try. Just go for it." Well, I'm reporting. I went for it, and it was phenomenal.
Thank you. Congratulations. That's so
It
awesome.
was
How does it
phenomenal.
feel? You feel frozen? Did
You
you feel a
feel
little bit?
like when it first, honestly, when I did it,
Yeah.
I started feeling all these things going through my head, but it
Mm-hmm.
was going upward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was amazing. Felt like things were opening up back there and all throughout my. Oh my God, it was good.
Oh,
I'm gonna
that's
do it again
awesome.
today.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah,
really awesome.
it was real good, real good. But I have
Wow.
to tell you, I wouldn't recommend anyone who's not accustomed to cold temperatures. I've been
I don't
cold
go.
dipping for quite some time, so
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a gradual thing. So don't just go in and do that plunge right away. You don't want to shock the system. You want to work your system into that, and it's a
Yeah.
phenomenal
Yeah.
feeling. It's
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
like taking an Advil, like a Advil times 1,000. It's immediately, it's an immediate release. It's phenomenal.
I'm so happy for you.
Good stuff.
I normally do cold shower. I don't do all the time, and like when it's very cold during winter,
Right.
I fear that stuff because when I put the cold shower, I start feeling the frozen part. Of the,
Yeah.
like you say, wow, I'm going to like it can knock you out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So
for the folks who don't know about the cold dip and the cold dip plunge, it's phenomenal for inflammation, reducing inflammation.
yeah,
You know, so
and find shooting up your moods.
yep,
Like because it's
immune
like
system and everything.
shocks you up and like oh it's
It
so
definitely
amazing.
wakes you up. So yeah,
Yeah,
good
yeah.
stuff. So I appreciate you, Catherine, as always, for encouraging me to take this recovery further and further, and it's real good.
As Michael Bolton once said, you'll be back on your feet. So
Absolutely.
but you're
Absolutely.
already on your feet, but I believe that you will be completely yourself as time goes by.
My goal is to get back on a plane and fly. Right now, I'm restricted, so I'm
Oh,
almost
what?
there. I'm
Okay.
almost there. Yeah.
Now, why would they restrict you? Fear that it might happen?
Not because the
The air.
altitude,
Yeah, the air. The
yeah,
low oxygen, you get it.
altitude as far as the pressure.
Yeah, get it.
So is I can't like I'm dying to come over to France, but I can't now right now because the flight is too long.
Take a ship. Wow.
Soon come, soon come, soon come.
Okay. Well, I think we should wrap up. Thank you so much. And once again, I would say whoever is going through ACEs, trauma, it's not about forgetting what happened, but overcoming, like giving yourself the opportunity to live something different. Because for me, it's, I would say not could be maybe 13 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was waking every morning with my past in my present.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
And every day I would go on and on, living the past when I'm here. And so you find at the end you missed a lot, because when you're living the past, when you're bringing your past into the present, you're not living the present. And so you feel, when you wake up and feel, wow, so there are some things to look at. So there's something to, look forward instead of just looking behind. I would say this, and I hope people will not misunderstand, but there is nothing in the past that is going to help you. The past is past, it has gone, it happened, whatever happened, happened. There's nothing you can change about that. Exactly. But you can help yourself to overcome the trauma that you went through and start living today. And whatever desires you have, because sometimes you'll say, I wish I could just forget. It's not about forgetting. It's just acknowledging that where you are today, there is a life. People are living, people are happy, people are doing things, and you also can be part of those people who are making life happen, not just being the victim of what the past has left you with.
Exactly. It's good stuff, Catherine. Real good stuff. As always, you can catch Catherine and I on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Taylor Kenny TV, at tayken.com. And also for Catherine's wonderful blogs and all the good stuff, go to foodandheal.com. And she has some great stuff over there, man. Foodandheal.com. It's on the screen there, so check it out. Food, the letter N, heal.com. Also, she has a wonderful book on Amazon. On Amazon.
Oh, the light is not that good. It's the best anti-inflammatory breakfast. Head yourself to Amazon and you can type Catherine Githu, and you'll find books that I've written there. Some are journals, and let us meet here the next week.
Absolutely. Yeah. As always, you guys be epic, and we'll talk on the other side of Thursday.
Thank you. Have a nice time.
Conversations with Trent in conjunction with Taylor Kennedy Media and your radio network would like to thank you for calling in and listening to tonight's episode. We hope that tonight's conversation offended you just enough to turn your mirror inward, to come back for more. So until next week's conversation, be epic.